The mountain cabin creaked softly in the cold Colorado wind. Snow covered the pine trees around the isolated structure, creating a silent landscape that seemed untouched by human presence. Jay Park stood by the window, his dark eyes scanning the wilderness outside. At 35, Jay was not a typical mountain dweller. His muscular frame and alert posture suggested years of military training. The cabin was more than a home, it was a carefully designed sanctuary of survival. Shelves lined with carefully organized survival gear, maps marked with strategic locations, and multiple communication devices revealed a man who was always prepared. A sudden loud crash broke the mountain's silence. Jay's body tensed. His hand immediately moved to the rifle hanging near the door, a custom-modified weapon that looked both practical and deadly. Years of military training had taught him to react quickly and efficiently. Outside, a smoking object lay half-buried in the snow. It wasn't a typical meteor or fallen tree. The metallic surface gleamed with strange reflections, suggesting something entirely alien had just landed in his quiet mountain territory. Cautiously, Jay pulled on his winter gear. Each movement was calculated, controlled. He checked his communication device, ensuring he could call for backup if needed. But something told him this was going to be different from any mission he had experienced before. As he approached the crashed object, he noticed unusual details. The metal wasn't like anything he had seen in military equipment. Strange symbols covered its surface, pulsing with a soft blue light. Steam rose from its damaged exterior, melting the surrounding snow. Then he saw her. A figure lay partially exposed from the wreckage. Not human, but humanoid. Her skin had a soft greenish-blue tint, unlike any human complexion. Intricate patterns that looked like living circuitry covered her exposed arms. She was clearly injured, her breathing shallow and irregular. Jay's military medical training kicked in. Regardless of whether she was human or alien, a life needed saving. He carefully approached, checking for potential weapons or threats. Finding none, he gently lifted her from the wreckage. Her weight was surprisingly light. Up close, he could see her unique biological structure, skin that seemed to shimmer with an internal light, breathing patterns different from human respiratory systems. Her clothing was unlike any fabric he had ever encountered, seeming to shift and adapt even as he carried her. Inside the cabin, Jay laid her on a specially prepared medical table. His first aid kit was extensive, prepared for multiple scenarios. He began treating her wounds, noticing how her body seemed to react differently to human medical techniques. Strange devices attached to her body began to pulse and shift. Jay realized these weren't just clothing or accessories, but integrated biological technology far beyond human understanding. As he worked, the alien slowly regained consciousness. Her eyes, large, with multiple iris colors, flickered open. They were not just eyes, but complex sensory organs that seemed to analyze everything around her. Jay spoke softly, "You're safe now." The alien looked confused, her language centers trying to process his words. A small device on her wrist began translating, creating a mechanical but understandable response. "Where am I?" she asked. "You're in a safe place," Jay responded. "I found you crashed outside my cabin." Her response was a mixture of gratitude and confusion. Her body continued to emit soft pulses of light, suggesting her internal systems were stabilizing. Jay knew this was just the beginning of something extraordinary. An alien, crashed in his mountain sanctuary, would change everything he understood about the universe. Little did he know how profound the change would be. The cabin's interior was warm, a stark contrast to the cold mountain landscape outside. Soft light from the fireplace flickered across the alien's face as she slowly regained consciousness. Her eyes, complex and multicolored, moved cautiously, taking in every detail of her surroundings. Jay Park sat nearby, watching her carefully. His military training made him both cautious and observant. Every movement she made was studied, every breath analyzed. The alien's breathing was different, more rhythmic, with a strange pulse that seemed to sync with some internal biological mechanism. Her body was covered in a thin blanket, but Jay could see the intricate patterns on her skin continuing to shift and change. They looked like living circuits, moving and adapting constantly.
Her greenish-blue skin seemed to absorb and reflect light in ways no human skin could. The alien tried to move but winced.
Her body was still recovering from the crash. Jay noticed her attempt and approached slowly, holding out a glass of water.
"Drink," he said simply.
The translation device on her wrist buzzed, converting his words into her language. Her hand, with fingers longer and more flexible than human hands, reached out carefully. Her touch seemed to analyze the glass itself, sensing its composition and temperature. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice a melodic mix of sounds that the translation device struggled to convert completely.
"My name is Jay Park," he responded.
"You crashed near my cabin.
I brought you inside and treated your injuries."
Her eyes examined him completely. Jay felt like he was being scanned, not just visually, but through some complex sensory system he couldn't understand. She was studying him as much as he was studying her.
"I am Yuna," she finally responded.
The name sounded different when she spoke it,
with additional tones and vibrations that the translation device could only partially capture. Jay's cabin was filled with items that fascinated Yuna. Survival gear hung on walls. Complex communication devices sat on shelves.
Books about wilderness survival, engineering, and military strategy were neatly organized.
Each item told a story of human preparation and adaptability. Yuna's attention kept returning to a collection of tools near the workbench.
They were modified, changed, and improved, showing human creativity. A standard wrench had been adapted with additional mechanisms. A communication device was clearly rebuilt using parts from multiple sources.
"You modify things," Yuna observed, pointing at the tools. Jay nodded. "Humans adapt. We take what exists and make it better."
Her response was a complex series of sounds that the translation device interpreted as a mix of curiosity and mild shock.
Humans were not what her civilization had expected. The cabin's warmth and Jay's careful medical treatment were helping Yuna recover quickly.
Her body seemed to have remarkable healing capabilities. Wounds that would take humans weeks to heal were already closing, her skin's living circuits working like advanced medical technology. Outside, the mountain remained silent. Snow continued to fall, covering any evidence of the crashed spacecraft. No one knew Yuna was here, a visitor from another world, now recovering in an isolated cabin with a human who had chosen to help rather than fear. Jay prepared some food, simple, nutritious items that he hoped would be compatible with her biological system. He wasn't sure if she could eat human food, but he was determined to try. Yuna watched him, her multiple colored eyes analyzing every movement.
She was learning, observing, understanding.
This was not an invasion or a conflict. This was a first contact, happening in the most unexpected of places.
A quiet mountain cabin, far from any city or military base.
Something significant was beginning. A connection between two different species started with an act of simple kindness days passed in the mountain cabin. Jay watched carefully as Yuna explored his living space, her curious fingers touching everything, her multicolored eyes scanning each object with intense interest.
The first room she entered was Jay's workshop. Tools hung perfectly organized on magnetic boards.
Modified communication devices sat next to partially dismantled equipment.
Each item told a story of human innovation and problem-solving. Yuna picked up a simple wrench.
To her surprise, Jay had modified it with additional mechanisms, making it more versatile than its original design. She looked at him, confusion clear in her expression.
"Humans always improve things," Jay explained. "We take something basic and make it better."
Her translation device captured his words, but the concept seemed strange to her. In her civilization, technology was perfect from the start.
The idea of constant modification was new. Jay's bookshelf fascinated her even more.
Books about survival, engineering, military strategy, and human history filled the shelves. She pulled out a book about World War II engineering innovations, her fingers tracing the technical diagrams.
"Your species solves problems in unusual ways," Yuna observed.
Her fingers moved across a diagram showing how engineers had created complex solutions with limited resources.
The cabin walls told stories too. Maps marked with strategic locations hung next to survival guides. Equipment for mountain survival was carefully maintained, each item showing signs of personal modification and improvement.
Jay noticed her interest and began explaining. He showed her how humans adapt to different environments. A water filtration system he had modified caught her attention.
What was a simple device to him represented complex problem-solving to her.
"We learn," Jay said simply.
"We adapt. We survive." Yuna's biological circuits, the living technology on her skin, seemed to pulse with understanding.
She was seeing something her civilization had never comprehended about humans: their ability to transform challenges into opportunities. Outside, the mountain remained silent.
Snow covered the landscape, hiding the crashed spacecraft. No one knew an alien was learning about humanity in this isolated cabin.
Jay prepared a meal, simple but nutritious. He wasn't sure if Yuna could eat human food, but he was determined to try. Her metabolic system was different, but not completely incompatible. She watched him cook, fascinated by the process.
Cooking was not something her civilization practiced.
Food in her world was produced through advanced scientific processes, not prepared manually.
The kitchen revealed more about human creativity.
Modified cooking tools, improvised measuring devices, and carefully organized spices showed how humans approach even simple tasks with innovation.
Yuna touched a solar-powered radio, another example of human technological adaptation.
It was old but carefully maintained, modified to work in harsh mountain conditions.
Each modification told a story of human resilience.
"Your technology is not perfect," she observed.
"But you make it work." Jay smiled. Perfection is not the goal. Survival is.
As evening approached, Jay showed her how he prepared for potential challenges.
Emergency communication systems, backup power generators, medical supplies, each item carefully chosen and often modified. Yuna realized something profound was happening. Humans were not just another species.
They were adaptable, creative problem solvers who saw limitations as opportunities for improvement.
The cabin grew quiet. Outside, mountain winds whispered. Inside, an alien and a human sat together, slowly understanding each other's worlds.
Something important was happening in this isolated space. A connection between two different civilizations started with curiosity and respect. The mountain sky changed color suddenly. Dark shadows appeared, not clouds, but alien spacecraft searching the landscape.
Jay's body tensed immediately.
His military training kicked in with perfect precision. "They're coming," Yuna whispered, her skin circuits changing color, shifting from calm blue to alert red patterns.
Jay moved quickly.
His hands grabbed communication devices, modified radio equipment, and specialized tracking systems he had prepared over years. The cabin transformed from a peaceful mountain home into a strategic defense point.
Outside, 3 large alien ships scanned the terrain.
Their technology was advanced energy signatures that could detect lifeforms from miles away. But Jay had prepared for this. Special electromagnetic interference devices were already activated, creating false signals and blocking their precise scanning.
Yuna watched in shock. Her civilization believed humans were primitive. What she saw was something entirely different: a human preparing for conflict with remarkable creativity.
Jay pulled down mountain maps.
He marked potential approach routes, understanding the terrain's advantages. Mountains could become natural defense points. Rocky areas could block energy weapons. Snow could hide movement. "They want me," Yuna said. "Their mission is to capture me." Jay's response was simple and direct. "Not happening."
He activated a series of modified communication devices.
Each one sent different signals, creating confusion for the alien tracking systems.
Old military radio equipment mixed with improvised electronic countermeasures created a complex defense network.
The alien ships began descending.
Their energy weapons powered up, preparing to scan and capture the area. But Jay had prepared something special. Powerful infrared jammers, devices he had personally modified, began broadcasting. The alien ship's scanning systems became confused. False heat signatures appeared across the mountain range, making precise targeting impossible.
Yuna watched in complete amazement. Her people's technology was considered superior.
But this human was using simple tools, understanding of terrain, and creative thinking to challenge their advanced systems.
Jay moved between different communication stations. Each device was modified, each system carefully prepared. He wasn't just defending, he was actively creating a complex defense strategy that confused the alien pursuit. The first alien ship tried scanning the cabin area. Suddenly, its systems went offline. Jay's electromagnetic pulse generators had created a localized disruption field.
The ship's advanced technology became temporarily useless.
"How are you doing this?" Yuna asked, her voice a mix of shock and admiration.
"Humans adapt," Jay responded simply. "We turn limitations into advantages."
Outside, the mountain landscape became a complex battlefield. Snow, rocks, and terrain became weapons.
The alien ships found themselves fighting not just a human, but an entire environmental system carefully understood and manipulated. Another ship attempted a direct energy attack. Jay's specially designed reflective panels, created from modified satellite equipment,
redirected the energy, causing the weapon to malfunction. Yuna's biological circuits were pulsing rapidly.
She was witnessing something her civilization had never understood. Humans were not just another species.
They were adaptable, creative problem solvers who could challenge technologically superior opponents. The pursuit continued for hours. Each alien attempt was met with unexpected human creativity.
Jay used every available resource, communication devices, terrain knowledge, improvised electronic systems, to defend their position.
As darkness fell, the alien ships began retreating.
They had found something unexpected, a human who did not follow expected patterns of conflict and defense.
Jay looked at Yuna. "They're gone," he said simply. Her response was a complex mix of sounds that translated to pure amazement.
Humans were far more dangerous than her civilization had ever imagined. The mountain returned to silence.
Snow continued falling. Inside the cabin, an alien and a human sat together, having just experienced something extraordinary.
A simple defense that changed everything. The morning after the alien pursuit was different. Soft mountain sunlight entered the cabin, revealing two beings who had just shared an extraordinary experience. Jay sat cleaning his modified communication devices, while Yuna watched with a new understanding in her multicolored eyes.
"Your people are not what we believed," Yuna said softly. Her skin circuits pulsed with a mixture of emotions, respect, confusion, and something close to wonder. Jay simply nodded.
He understood that something fundamental had changed during the night's defense. This was more than a survival moment.
This was a complete transformation of understanding between two different species. Yuna began explaining her civilization's perception of humans.
They had watched Earth from distance, believing humans were primitive, disorganized, and technologically weak. What she experienced was completely different.
Humans were adaptive, creative problem solvers who could turn any limitation into an advantage. The cabin told a story of human potential. Modified tools hung on walls.
Books about survival, engineering, and strategy filled shelves. Each object represented human innovation, taking something basic and making it extraordinary. "We do not simply accept things as they are," Jay explained.
"We see potential in everything."
Her translation device captured his words, but the deeper meaning went beyond language.
Humans didn't just survive, they reimagined survival itself.
Where other species would see a problem, humans saw an opportunity for innovation. Outside, the mountain remained silent.
Snow covered the landscape, hiding evidence of the previous night's conflict.
No official record would show what had happened here, a small victory against a technologically superior force.
Yuna's biological systems continued analyzing.
Her skin circuits recorded every detail of the cabin, of Jay's equipment, of the strategies he had used. She was creating a complete report that would fundamentally change her civilization's understanding of humans.
Jay prepared breakfast, a simple meal that represented human adaptability.
Using limited ingredients, he created something nutritious and satisfying.
Yuna watched, fascinated by the process of manual food preparation. "Your civilization will not believe this," she said, watching him cook. Jay smiled.
Sometimes the most important changes start with small moments. As morning progressed, they discussed the pursuit. Jay explained military strategies, survival techniques, and human problem-solving approaches. Yuna listened, her multiple-colored eyes absorbing every detail. Her civilization had massive energy weapons and advanced scanning technologies. Humans had creativity, adaptability, and an understanding that true strength comes from innovative thinking. The communication devices Jay had modified became a symbol of human potential. Each device was not just a tool, but a reimagined solution.
Old equipment transformed into something new and powerful.
Yuna realized her mission had changed.
She was no longer just a refugee.
She had become a bridge, someone who could help her civilization understand the true potential of humans.
"We judged too quickly," she admitted. Her skin circuits pulsed with a soft, reflective light. Jay understood this was more than a personal moment.
This was a potential turning point between two civilizations.
A small interaction in a mountain cabin could change everything. As afternoon arrived, they discussed potential communication strategies. How could Yuna explain to her people the complexity of human potential? How could she help them understand that technological superiority meant nothing without creative adaptation?
The mountain cabin, once just a simple survival structure, had become something more.
A place of unexpected connection, of fundamental understanding between two different species. Yuna's final observation captured everything: humans do not just survive. They reimagine survival itself.
Outside, snow continued falling.
Inside, two beings from different worlds shared a moment of profound transformation. A simple mountain cabin had become the location of an extraordinary understanding.
Something important had changed. Forever.